What if I told you that everything you have been told about aging gracefully might be missing one very big piece of the puzzle? Researchers recently followed a group of people who lived well into their 90s, some even past 100, and what they found left them scratching their heads. These seniors weren't spending every spare minute at the gym. They weren't on fancy organic meal plans. Some of them even admitted to enjoying a glass of wine or a piece of pie well into their late 80s. So what is their secret? It turns out the answer has almost nothing to do with the usual advice you hear from doctors and health gurus. And once you understand this, it might completely change how you think about your own future. Let me introduce you to a patient I will never forget. Her name was Eleanor. She came to see me when she was 92 years old, and she walked into my office without a cane, without a walker, and without any help from her daughter, who sat nervously in the waiting room. Eleanor had this spark in her eyes, a kind of playful energy that you rarely see in people half her age. She told me she still lived alone, cooked her own meals, tended to her small rose garden, and even drove herself to church every Sunday. I was curious, of course. I asked her what her secret was. She thought about it for a moment, laughed, and said, "Honey, I never worried about getting old. I just kept showing up for life. At first, I thought she was just lucky. Maybe she won the genetic lottery. But over the years, I have seen this pattern again and again in patients who age exceptionally well. And the science is finally catching up to what Eleanor seemed to know instinctively. Here at Dr. Misyal, we have been studying these cases closely, and what we have discovered might surprise you as much as it surprised me. Most people assume that living a long, healthy life comes down to eating the right foods, exercising regularly, and getting enough sleep. And do not get me wrong, those things matter. They absolutely matter. But when researchers looked at the lifestyles of hundreds of healthy nonagenarians, they found something unexpected. These individuals did not always follow the perfect diet. Some of them ate red meat regularly, some skipped breakfast, some even admitted to not exercising at all in the traditional sense, yet they remained sharp, mobile, and independent. How is that possible? Let me share a story about a man named Harold. Harold was 87 when he first came to see me, and he was worried because his wife had just passed away. He told me he felt lost, like he had no reason to get out of bed anymore. His blood pressure was creeping up, his joints ached, he had trouble remembering things. Harold was convinced that his body was just falling apart because of his age. But here is what we discovered together. Harold's physical symptoms were real, no question about it, but they were being amplified by something far more powerful than any disease. It was a sense of disconnection. You see, one of the most surprising discoveries in longevity research over the past decade has nothing to do with diet pills, supplements, or high-intensity interval training. It has to do with something called your social baseline. This is a term researchers use to describe the minimum amount of meaningful human connection your brain needs to function properly. And here's the scary part. Millions of older adults are living below that baseline without even realizing it. They might have family members who call once a week. They might have a neighbor who waves hello. But that is not the same as deep, consistent, emotionally connected interaction. When you fall below your social baseline, your body interprets this as a threat. Your stress hormones stay elevated, inflammation increases, your immune system weakens, and suddenly, every little ache feels 10 times worse. This is not just in your head, this is biology. Let me explain it simply. Your brain is wired to keep you safe. Thousands of years ago, being alone meant being vulnerable to predators or enemy tribes. So your brain developed an alarm system. When you feel isolated, that alarm goes off. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. Your heart rate changes, your digestion slows down. All of this was designed to help you survive short-term threats. But here is the problem. For many older adults today, that feeling of isolation is not short-term. It goes on for years. And your body was never designed to live in a constant state of alarm. That is why you see people who seem to age overnight after losing a spouse or after retiring from a job where they had close friendships. It is not just grief. It is the sudden drop in daily social connection that triggers a cascade of physical changes. Now here is where the story gets really interesting. Remember Eleanor, the 92-year-old who walked into my office without a cane? When I asked her about her daily routine, she did not talk about kale smoothies or morning jogs. She talked about her book club that met every Tuesday. She talked about the phone call she had every evening with her sister who lived 3 states away. She talked about the teenagers next door who came over to help her with her computer and how she made them cookies in return. Eleanor had what researchers now call a high-quality social portfolio. That means she did not just have one or two people in her life, she had different types of connections for different needs. A close friend for emotional support, a neighbor for practical help, a younger person who kept her feeling relevant, a sibling who shared her history. Each of these relationships served a different purpose, and together they created a safety net that protected her brain and her body from the ravages of chronic stress. If you are enjoying this breakdown of what really keeps seniors healthy into their 90s, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. I am sharing research and practical advice you will not find in the typical health articles, and I would hate for you to miss what is coming next in this video. So what does this mean for you? Maybe you are in your 50s or 60s right now, and you are starting to notice small changes. Your knees hurt a little more than they used to. You forget names sometimes. You do not have the same energy you had 10 years ago. It is easy to blame these things on aging and assume there is nothing you can do about it. But here is the truth. Some of what you are experiencing might actually be caused by a shrinking social world, not just by the calendar. Think about it. When was the last time you had a conversation that lasted more than 15 minutes? When was the last time someone asked you for advice and really listened? When was the last time you laughed so hard your stomach hurt? These things are not just nice to have. They are essential medicine for your aging brain and body. Let me share a powerful study that came out of Harvard. Researchers followed a group of men for nearly 80 years, one of the longest studies of adult life ever conducted. And the single strongest predictor of who lived into their 90s in good health was not their cholesterol level at age 50. It was not whether they exercised. It was the quality of their close relationships. The men who had at least 3 people they could really count on, people they could call in the middle of the night if they were scared or sick, those men aged dramatically better than the ones who were lonely, even if the lonely ones took better physical care of themselves. That finding is so powerful, it should make every single one of us stop and think about how we are spending our time and energy. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What if I do not have those people in my life? What if my spouse has passed away, my children live far away, and my old friends have moved or passed on? This is a real challenge, and it is one that millions of Americans face every day. But here is the good news. You can rebuild your social portfolio at any age. And I do not mean just joining a bingo night or sitting in a crowded room full of strangers. I mean intentionally creating the kinds of meaningful connections that actually protect your health. Let me tell you about a patient named Margaret. Margaret was 78 years old and deeply lonely after her husband of 50 years died. She came to me with high blood pressure, weight gain, and what she called brain fog. She was convinced she was developing dementia. But after we ran some tests, her doctor confirmed that there was nothing wrong with her brain that could not be explained by chronic stress and isolation. Margaret did not need a new medication. She needed people. So I challenged her to do something that felt terrifying at first. I asked her to find one small way to connect with someone new every single day for 1 month. Not a big commitment, just something tiny. Smile at the grocery store cashier and ask how their day is going. Call an old coworker she had not spoken to in years. Volunteer at the local elementary school for 1 hour a week reading to children. Margaret thought I was crazy. She said she was too old to make new friends, but she tried it anyway. And by the end of that month, something remarkable happened. Her blood pressure started to come down without any change in her medication. She had more energy. The brain fog lifted. And she told me something I will never forget. She said, "I forgot what it felt like to be needed, and that feeling is better than any pill I have ever taken." This is the piece that so many health experts miss. We talk about diet and exercise and sleep and supplements, and all of those things are important, but they are built on a foundation. That foundation is connection. If you are lonely, no smoothie in the world is going to fix your chronic inflammation. If you feel invisible, no amount of treadmill time is going to lower your stress hormones. Your biology is not separate from your social life. They are completely intertwined, and the science is absolutely clear on this point. Chronic loneliness is as dangerous to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in for a moment. Smoking 15 cigarettes a day, that is not my opinion. That is a conclusion from a major meta-analysis that looked at over 300,000 participants. Loneliness increases your risk of heart disease by nearly 30%. It increases your risk of stroke. It accelerates cognitive decline. And yet, we treat loneliness as an emotional problem instead of the medical emergency that it truly is. So what can you do starting today to protect yourself? First, you need to take an honest inventory of your social portfolio. Not just how many people you know, but how many people you have meaningful, reciprocal relationships with. Reciprocal is the key word here. A relationship where you give and receive, where you are not just a burden and you are not just a caregiver, where there is mutual respect, mutual interest, and mutual care. If you look at your life and realize that number is lower than 3, you have a clear target to work toward. And do not panic if that is where you are right now. You can change it. You absolutely can change it. Second, you need to look for connection in unexpected places. Some of the healthiest older adults I have met have built strong friendships with people 20, 30, even 40 years younger than them. These cross-generational friendships are incredibly powerful because they keep your brain exposed to new ideas, new music, new ways of thinking. Your brain craves novelty, and younger people deliver that in spades. At the same time, you bring wisdom and perspective that they desperately need. This is not a one-way street. It is a genuine exchange. So do not assume that you have nothing in common with someone just because they are a different age. Some of the most beautiful friendships I have ever witnessed were between a grandmother and a college student who met at a community garden or a church potluck. Third, and this might be the most important piece of advice I can give you, you have to become the person who reaches out first. So many of us wait for the phone to ring, we wait for someone to invite us to dinner, we wait for our children to call, and when they do not, we tell ourselves that nobody cares. But here is the secret. Everyone is waiting, everyone is lonely, everyone is hoping someone else will make the first move. So be that person. Pick up the phone today and call someone you have not spoken to in months. Do not overthink it. Do not rehearse what you will say. Just dial and say, "I was thinking about you and I wanted to hear your voice." That simple act, repeated over time, can literally add years to your life. I am not exaggerating. The research on this is overwhelming. Now, I want to be clear about something. I am not saying that diet and exercise do not matter. Of course they matter. But think of it this way. Eating well and moving your body are like putting premium fuel in a car. That is important. But if the car has a cracked engine block, the best fuel in the world will not help. Your social connections are that engine block. They are the foundation that everything else rests on. If you fix your loneliness, suddenly your healthy habits have a chance to work. Your body stops fighting a constant war against stress, and it can finally use that good food and that good sleep to repair and rebuild and protect you. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one more story. A few years ago, I met a woman named Ruth at a community health fair. Ruth was 96 years old and still volunteering at the local hospital 3 days a week, greeting visitors and helping them find their way. I asked her why she kept working when she could easily stay home and rest. She looked at me like I had asked the dumbest question in the world. She said, "Honey, the day I stop showing up for other people is the day I start dying." That was 7 years ago. Ruth just turned 103, and she still volunteers every Tuesday and Thursday. She has outlived her husband, her siblings, and most of her old friends. But she has also made dozens of new ones along the way. Her secret was never in a vitamin bottle. It was in her willingness to keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep caring. Which part of this surprised you the most? Was it the fact that loneliness is as dangerous as smoking? Was it the story about Harold or Margaret or Eleanor? Or maybe you are realizing for the first time that some of your own health struggles might have more to do with isolation than with aging. I would love to hear your thoughts. Take a moment and share in the comments what stood out to you, or better yet, share one small step you are going to take this week to strengthen your own social portfolio. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to feel less alone. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone you care about. You never know who in your life might be struggling silently with loneliness, believing that it is just a normal part of getting older. It is not normal, and it is not hopeless. There is so much you can do, starting right now, to protect your health and your happiness for years to come. And if you have not already, make sure you subscribe to Dr. Misyal so you never miss a video. We are just getting started on this journey together, and I promise you, there is so much more to come. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being here. Take care of yourself, and even more importantly, take care of each other.